defy all vanity. Okay, so this is the story of Alice, my great-grandmother, who lived with us until she was 90-something. 93. So you got a phone call because she had to move to a convalescent home?
Like hospice care.
No, it was a convalescent hospital where Jeannie Beyer was the head administrator, and she and Grandma became very close friends. And when Grandma was 94, Jeannie called me and she says, well, Alice is on her way out. So I hopped in the car and I went to Whittier, and I got in bed with her and I grabbed her Bible.
Which was laying next to her?
Which was laying next to her. And you know how people underline things in the Bible? So I just started reading to her from the Bible, and especially the passages that were underlined. And she would open her eyes and smile at me. Then she'd close her eyes, and I just keep reading. And I spent about 5 hours with her, and then I looked down and I realized that she had passed.
That's some way to go.
She was happy.
Yeah.
I love my grandma.
Was this your mother's mother?
Yeah.
So she outlived your daughter by decades.
Uh-huh.
And your mother was how old when she passed away? In her late 20s? 29?
She was 30.
30?
I just looked that up, and I kept saying that she was 29, but she was actually 30 when she
And
died.
were you 5 or 6 when your mom passed?
5. Russell was 6.
And that must have been really hard on Alice.
Well, she'd also lost a 7-year-old.
What?
She lost Calvin.
Did he have like scarlet fever or something?
I think he died of the Spanish pandemic.
Yeah. So that would be during the First World War.
Mm-hmm. Or right after the First World War.
Yeah.
You know, she had so much that she really couldn't talk about. And she couldn't talk about Calvin because Calvin was she was not allowed to be with him when he was sick.
What?
Just like everyone
Just
who's
like
dying
now.
Right.
Just like now.
You're dying alone.
He was what's it called?
Contagious.
Huh?
Quarantine.
He was
Quarantined.
contagious.
Yeah, he was quarantined.
Poor baby. 7 years
And
old.
7 years old.
And you're
And she never really got over that.
No, how do you? So sad.
this would have been your mother's older brother, probably, right? Calvin would have been older
Right,
than
because
your
my
mother.
mother was born in 1919, right in the middle of the
Oh, the
pandemic.
pandemic, yeah. And your mother had rheumatic fever that caused damage to her heart.
Right.
And she was
She
told,
had rheumatic fever, and she was sick all of her life. She was warned not to get married. She was warned not to have children.
Right. What were the signs though when she was when your dad realized your mom her health had turned to a point where she was like it was seriously life threatening? What was happening? What were her symptoms? Her heart was just getting weaker and weaker?
They just knew that it would happen. They called it, they said that she would have an aneurysm, you know, because pieces of her heart were chipping away.
It was like a stroke, like a little
Yeah. And so eventually on January 18th, 1950, she she was lying on the couch. They had just put us to sleep. And she just kind of came up like this. And she said, ah. She was dead.
20,
30.
30? She was 30?
And was Mark close friends with your mother at that time?
Yes.
Was she there when it happened?
No. Just my father.
Where were you living at that time?
On Wadsworth in Watts.
In Watts.
Yeah. And, you know, my father just ran outside and yelled to the next door neighbors, I'm taking Joyce, I have to take Joyce to the hospital. Please, the girls are alone. Please take care of them. But she was pronounced dead when she arrived.
Do you have a last memory of your mother?
I don't know what my last memory of her was. I know, well, yeah, I have a memory of her being in the mortuary.
Oh.
What's your most pleasant memory of her? Like, most pleasant, vivid memory? She died when you were very young, so
Yeah.
it can't be many.
I don't know.
Did she cook well? Did she sing?
Oh,
Did she have a sense of humor?
She cooked all the time and she played the piano.
Was she a Christian?
No.
So she didn't believe in Jesus?
Well, I don't know. I'm not old enough, or I wasn't old enough when she was alive to know.
Where did you get
anything.
those hymn books from?
When my grandfather died, my grandmother sent me these hymnals. They're very old, as you could see. You know. And I also have your great aunt's.
I love that clock.
I have your great aunt's Bible. Her daughter sent it to me, my cousin. They're just, you know, nice things to have.
Michelle, tell the story of that you told me recently about. I think it was you that told me about when your father he like thumbed a ride on a ship to Tahiti, and he was only going to stay. Put this on your mother. And he was only going to stay for like a couple weeks or a couple months. Tell that story.
Oh, well, it was during the Depression, and my father had not even finished high school at that point, but he had to go to work, and he was picking cotton for for $1 a day or something. But then he had the opportunity to join the Merchant Marines, and he hopped on a freighter, and it was bound for Tahiti. So he stayed on the ship until they got to Tahiti, and then he was walking down a long stretch of beach which had bluffs above it, and he saw a man standing there saying, "Hello, are you an American?" And he said, "Yes." He said, "Do you play bridge?" And my father said, "Yes." And my father happened to be a very good, very, very good bridge player, even when he was a little guy. You know, he was never a little guy. He was probably at 17 or 18, he was 6'4" or 5. And so he says, "Come on up." And he spent 2 years in Tahiti playing he was the only fourth on the island.
Yeah. He was really
And,
cool.
or in that part of the island anyhow. I don't know how big Tahiti is, but,
Chynna,
uh,
hold on a second. So her father is on a merchant marine ship, doesn't graduate high school, gets on a merchant marine ship for Tahiti. How he got off his, how he ever got relieved of his duty on that merchant marine ship and didn't have to continue on that voyage, I have no idea. But he's walking down the beach. Some Brit says, "Do you play bridge?" He says yes, and they invite him up to play, and he stays for 2 years. And he stays for 2 years. He stays for 2 years. Now finish the story about what you told me about. Yeah, tell about
Okay,
what happened,
so-
how he got off the island.
so now he's got a girlfriend who lives in a hut on the beach, a Tahitian girl that he liked very much. And he woke up one morning and there was the biggest sailing ship that he had ever seen in his life. So he got in a canoe and he paddled out to the ship, and they invited him on board. And he found out that the ship belonged to the Whitman Chocolate Brothers. It was the largest privately owned sailing ship in the world.
Mega yacht for those days.
Mega yacht. And so after he spent a little while with them, they said, "Do you know how to make a cocktail?" He said, "Oh yeah."
He's 19.
Yeah. So they said, "Well, we are completely booked. I mean, we are completely full, except for a bartender. We don't have a bartender. Would you like to be our bartender?" And he said, "Yeah." He said, "Well, we won't be back into San Pedro for 7 months." He said, "Well, if you want me to come with you, I'll come." He says, "I just had one problem.
This
I
girlfriend.
have a girlfriend, and I don't really know how I'm going to tell her that I'm going to leave." And they said, "Don't worry about it. We have
Just the right thing.
just the right thing for her." And they came out with a great big Victrola and a stack of 78 records.
Records, yeah.
And they said, "Give her this as a farewell present." And he said, she took that Victrola and those records and turned her away and said, "Bye, Gil, love ya."
Bon voyage. Your father lived a life not just when he was 17, but when he was throughout most of his life. I mean, when I met him, he was an older man. But he lived his life to live in California in the 1920s and 1930s was truly there was lots of vestiges and remnants of the old Wild West. And you could your father, like, did you ever read any Cormac McCarthy novels?
Well, I do.
Your dad's life reminds me of like the way Cormac McCarthy describes the West in the 1930s.
Yeah.
He was like sort of a version of a cowboy.
I have the letter that he sent to his best friend on the day that he met my mother. And he said, "Boy, I met a girl today. She's so beautiful, and I'm gonna get her."
You have that letter?
I have the letter.
Oh, we have to have that. We have to frame that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I also have the letter where my mother is pregnant, and he says, "Darling," he says, "Joyce, I think if it's a girl, we should name her Michelle, and if it's a boy, we should name him Michael. The middle names, darling, I leave up to you." So I did come along a couple of months later, and they named me Holly Michelle Gilliam. That's how I got my name.
Legendary.
And I have that letter as well.
Mom, did you ever remember a moment when Grandpa turned to you and said, "Wow, I'm very, very proud of your achievements"? And
No.
Did he just have a tough way of showing that, or he had mixed feelings about it?
Well, yeah, of course he had mixed feelings about it. You
Because
know,
John was much older. Or
no,
because
he didn't care about
I
that.
had mixed feelings about my grandfather.
No, your father we're talking about.
Oh, my father.
Yeah, did your
Yeah.
dad ever turn to you and say,
Did your father say to you in your successes, like, it's really cool what's happening for you? Was
My
he-
father was really proud of me,
"Oh,
and just loved
the whole journey?
just loved it. He was driving a school bus for third graders during the beginning of the Mamas and the Papas, and he had the entire interior of the bus done in Mamas and Papas posters.
No.
you never told us this."
No.
Yeah, and every little clip in
How
the
old was your
newspaper.
dad when you were born?
Let's see. If he was born in 1914, and I was born in 1944.
24, 34. So he was 30.
Yeah,
So he was about 55 when you guys were killing it. You were about
Right.
25 years old,
right,
24. So he was 53, 54, 55 when you guys took off.
right.
I always, I'll always regret, even my relationship with John, I'll always regret that I didn't get a chance in those early years, not knowing that they wouldn't be around, that I didn't take advantage of that more and get a chance to do what we're doing now and get a chance to really know them on a deeper level. Because your father, for me, was not an easy guy. If you sat with him and you pushed the right buttons, he was always willing to converse. But if you didn't say anything, you could sit out here in like utter silence, and he would just enjoy the breeze.
Yeah, well, he wasn't. I don't want to say a braggart. That's not the word I'm looking for. But he. Be careful when you leave.
Those are not the right legs for that.
But it won't topple you. It
Yeah.
just is a surprise when you.
I'm trying to get away
Yeah.
from this bee and it keeps following me. Right? And
That's
right
because
next
you're
to
so
Dad.
sweet.
It's a fly, honey. It's
No,
not even
it's
a
a
bee.
bee.
It, I think it's a bee, but a bee won't attack you. A hornet will attack you, but a bee
Were
won't.
John and Gil close? Your dad and John Phillips? My
My
dad?
father loved John Phillips. That's why he let me go off with him, because he realized that John was very, very smart. And he also told me, he says, Michelle, if this doesn't work out, you can always come home. And I just wanted to go with John so badly.
And you were 16?
I was 17.
17?
Well, I was 16, but by the time we talked to my dad about it, I was 17. And he realized that I could leave on my own in the next few months anyway. So he wanted to keep it happy and peaceful, and
Why ended on an argumentative note when he wasn't going to have any control over you in 3 months anyway?
right.
Yeah.
So they got along magnificently well, and my father was very impressed with John.
I wish I'd gotten to know your dad better. I was around him a lot the first couple of years. I don't remember. What year did he die? 90 what?
I don't know.
Yeah. I don't remember either. But I met Chynna in 91, and I was, the first 4 or 5 years I was dating her, I would come here and he would be sitting on the porch and, how you doing, Gil?
Give me a glass of wine.
Having asleep. He slept a lot in that chair in the living room. That's like the image I have of him, is like the glass
Yeah, I remember
in
that too.
hand and asleep.
I have to go get my wine.
It is that hour. What time is it?
the bewitching hour.
1:10.
Oh, we're late, Mitch. We're late. We're way late.
Well, here, let's, do you want to take this with
I'm
you?
How lovely it's been to sit here on the porch at Troon Avenue and to reminisce about the old
No,
days.
you put that in the fridge for you.
Really?
This is where I grew up. This is my front porch. And that's my beautiful little front lawn. And that clock has been there since the 80s. It's a little bird chirping clock. And this is now my daughter Brooke, my offspring. And what can I say? It's quite lovely. My mother has given me these hymns, but I don't get them until she passes.
Pretty fresh.
But they're beautiful Baptist hymns. And ciao for now. Another episode of California Preaching. Say bye-bye, darling. Peace out.